Hi guys, does anyone know how to change backgrounds? My father has an awful thing on the back.
It should give you in the three buttons, Will, in your window, beside mute. If you hover on your window, you'll see there's in the top right-hand corner of your window.
Yeah.
There's three little buttons. If you click those three little dots, it should give you different options for choosing a virtual background, and I suppose because you have one, you could just turn it off maybe.
The only thing is, it looks.
It doesn't look like Kilkenny. There you go.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the second in the series of TED webinars being run by the IFO and the Society of Irish Foresters and the Department of Agriculture. My name is Anthony Browne. I'm the Irish
We just seem to have lost. Here we go.
Anthony, can you hear us again?
I can, yes. I don't know what happened there. Apologies. Do you want me to start over, or will I continue on? Or
if you could start over, thanks, Anthony.
that's all right. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. First of all, hello everybody, and welcome to the second in a series of TED webinars being run by the IFO, Society of Irish Foresters, and the Department of Agriculture. My name is Anthony Browne. I'm the Irish Wood Producers representative on the Irish Forestry Owners Association, and I'm chairing this evening's meeting. The topic of this evening's webinar is biomass potential, and we're here to explore biomass specifications, local energy hubs, wood chip and firewood, and industry investments to achieve zero carbon. Our speakers this evening are Mr. Tom Kent, Will Gabbett will be here to give a presentation, Nicholas Roberts, and Mark Stafford and Conor Breen, both from Danone. So to start off, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Tom Kent. Tom is he's with WIT in Waterford. He's a program leader and doing his business science in forestry course in Waterford IT. So Tom, if you'd want to start off, or do you want me to say any more?
Hi, Anthony. No, that's fine. Yeah, I teach the Bachelor of Science in Forestry course at WIT, and have been doing a bit of work over the years as well on the use of wood for energy.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll launch straight into my presentation if that's okay.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah. So I'll just share my screen with you. And I'm hoping everybody can see that now.
We can.
Perfect. Okay. So thanks very much now to Irish wood producers for inviting me to speak here. I think there's an interesting hour ahead of us. I'd try and be as brief as possible, and certainly somebody shout if I'm going over time. I'm going to talk a little bit about just wood fuel quality parameters, but probably going to focus in on one. Now, when we talk about wood fuel, there's a lot. Wood, you know, it's a big area. Wood fuel can come from many sources, and I guess what our you know, our listeners and viewers are probably most interested in maybe is this small section down here of looking at young stands that are being thinned and harvested for stem wood and being then used for either wood chip or maybe firewood. But that's only, you know, a small subset of a much larger, diverse and yeah, quite complex wood energy sector. So what might be considered a typical kind of supply chain then for wood chip production from roundwood is, you know, the thinning of your forest, the forwarding of roundwood to roadside, the transportation of that to some type of storage and seasoning facility at a terminal, and then the production of wood chip after seasoning and the supply of that wood chip. Again, this is a supply chain we've a good deal of experience of in Ireland now, and you know, many producers, and it's not the only supply chain though that we've studied. We've looked at other supply chains like taking whole trees by either felling with chainsaws or feller buncher and using a self-propelled front-mounted chipper, forwarding those wood chips to roadside with another specialized machine, a chips forwarder, and using container trucks for road transportation. We've looked at wood fuel production as well from the residues of clear felling. So the brash or lopping top that's left after roundwood harvesting at clear felling, starting with a brash bundler, and again, the extraction of those bales to roadside, transportation to the end user, and again, shredding of that material into a hog fuel. We've even studied the excavation and windrowing of stumps after clear fell, extraction of those stumps to roadside, the shredding of the stumps, and again, loading and transportation. So we've developed a good deal of knowledge of different materials coming from the forest and how to convert those into a wood fuel. These different supply chains produce very different types of wood fuel products. And here's a list from the international standards of just the different types of wood fuel products that can be described. Where, as you can see, wood chip is just one of many. When we study supply chains, we also study the wood fuel quality produced by these different raw materials and supply chains. And maybe initially looking at these four images, they don't look that different. They're all wood particles, kind of a variety of sizes and shapes. But what we found is, you know, there are substantial differences in calorific value, moisture content, ash content, and particle size distribution. And these differences then have a real impact on how this material is used. So because of these different types of fuels that are produced, standardization is very important. And it's important for a number of reasons. The standardization of wood fuel quality is important to ensure that the fuel is compatible with the boiler it's being used in. Different boilers will have different fuel specifications, and so it's important to know and match the right fuel for the right boiler. Secondly, then the burning characteristics of different fuels will change depending on the wood fuel quality, and so having a standard quality ensures that the burning characteristics are predictable. Also, the handling characteristics of wood fuel can change, whether an auger should be used or a walking floor, or whether fuel can be stored for long periods or only short periods. The characteristics of handling and storing fuel will depend on its quality. A fundamental point, of course, is that both seller and buyer can trade with confidence. And so by standardizing fuel quality, basically that facilitates confidence in what's being sold and bought is achieving a fair price. And of course, this is an ongoing area of machine and equipment development, whereby manufacturers of chippers, of wood fuel transportation systems and wood fuel boilers are all developing more and more specialized, reliable, efficient equipment and machinery based around being able to target a standardized wood fuel. So we've had now over 10 years of solid biofuel standard development. Initially, this work was started at European level with a technical committee on solid biofuels. Their work has been documented in a series of 26 standards, I think. Those European level standards were adopted at national level, so it became an Irish standard, and subsequently the current work is the global adoption of the initial European solid biofuel standards. So the work of standardization has been done, and where standardization then has proved a real benefit is it allows then for quality assurance schemes to develop. In Ireland, we have one such scheme, the Irish Wood Fuel Quality Assurance Scheme. On the right there is a map showing certified wood fuel suppliers. It's an all-Ireland scheme that was established to increase consumer confidence. The Wood Fuel Quality Assurance Scheme is currently very active now in promoting air emission minimization from wood fuels through the use of dry firewood. And it's part of its remit to continue to push for good quality standards in all wood fuels. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, well, when we talk about a good quality wood fuel, and in particular a dry wood fuel, let's start with some real basics about what is a fuel. Hopefully I won't lose you with this, but let's start with, a fuel very simply has chemical energy. And when we combust that fuel, when we burn it, that gets changed to thermal energy. And from there we can, generate electrical energy maybe, or simply leave it as heat. Biomass fuels have a chemical energy that's based on, their chemical composition, where mainly the carbon, hydrogen, and sulfur components are the ones that are releasing heat as they burn, and nitrogen, oxygen, and ash components are, if you like, taking some of that heat away. Why do I mention this? Well, it's very simply that wood fuel has very, very consistent energy content when it's looked at as a dry material. So without considering the moisture content that's in the wood. So we've studied this intensely. We've measured calorific value of wood, different species, as you can see here, in Irish conditions, and different components like the bark, the foliage, the stem, and the wood. And we can see that pretty much everything is hovering around 20 megajoules per kilogram in gross calorific value on a dry basis. More variation in bark, as you can see, for a number of reasons. Again, quite a bit of variation in foliage. Neither of those two components are substantial. Really over here on the right-hand side, the stem and wood components, as you can see, are very homogeneous between species. So why do we find differences in calorific value of wood? Well, I guess most of you have seen this sort of graph, the effect of moisture content on the calorific value of wood. There's this dramatic decline. So if we look at the calorific value of a ton of wood in gigajoules, it starts up here close to 20 gigajoules per ton, and then kind of rapidly declines as moisture content increases. I'd like to kind of look at that in a little bit kind of different way, where, to be honest, a lot of this decrease in calorific value is simply because we're displacing wood with water. If we include the moisture content of wood, really what's happening in every ton is now some of it is there's less wood and more water. And so if we get to a 50% moisture content, it simply means that now we've only got half a ton of wood, but we've also got half a ton of water. And so, in fact, a lot of that reduction in energy content due to moisture content is simply we're displacing fuel with water. The green bit here is actually the important part. This is the net energy loss due to evaporating off that water. And so we get some energy lost when we burn wood, because some of that energy is used to evaporate off all that water. So this leaves us with a need to dry wood before we use it. We measure moisture content with a really simple method of just putting it in the oven. drying it just above boiling point until a constant mass is achieved. So that way we know all the water is gone. We've got an international standard for doing that. It's something that, to be perfectly honest with you, can be done with very basic equipment. It doesn't require an expensive laboratory, a kitchen scales, and a small thermal oven is all that's needed. It's very important to replicate test samples, simply to get a representative moisture content of the material you're looking at. So, what's the expected moisture content of your fuel? Well, we've got this international standard again for describing wood fuels, and that basically describes them in classes of 5% increments in moisture content. So what can we do to store roundwood to promote seasoning? Again, it's not hugely complicated, but in Irish conditions, what we can do is use the ambient environment, choosing the windiest, most exposed spot you can find, ensuring that logs are raised above the ground, and ideally covering. This is a storage trial we did down in Cork a number of years ago, where we covered half the material and left the other half uncovered. And to be honest, what we would find is the uncovered material, just water lodged in it anytime after rain. And so the cover really just had the effect of preventing that lodging of water. We studied monitoring moisture content change over time quite intensely, and we've made these frames where we can constantly weigh the change, measure the change in weight of roundwood over time, and we can determine then how moisture content changes over time. We've seen that roundwood from conifer first thinnings can when it's harvested fresh, can be as much as 60% moisture content. And we can, in ambient Irish conditions, reduce that to below 20% moisture content, though it does take time. Certainly achieving 30% moisture content is easier. That last 10% can be difficult to guarantee in Irish ambient conditions. We stored roundwood at different times of the year, starting it at different times of the year, and the effect of storing at different times of the year can be as much as nearly 3 months, 2.5 months in terms of the drying time to get to 30% moisture content. So really what we've found is, you know, from March to September, we can get effective drying. From October to February, we don't. I said earlier, covering stacks is effective. Well, this graph might suggest it's not that effective, because we studied that as part of our trial, and as you can see, there isn't a huge amount of difference in terms of the rate of change in moisture content over time during the drying, based on whether there's a cover or not. However, what we did find was, as we looked at the material after seasoning, we selected out some logs throughout the stack, and the stacks with no cover had much more variable moisture content. So as we go down through the stack, we see wetter logs at the top and then gradually getting drier, whereas the covered stack had much more consistent moisture content. We've done similar trials for firewood. We set up this trial in Carriganore in Waterford, where we looked at 10 different treatments. We cut firewood to different lengths. We split it, and we left some of it in the round. We covered some of it, as you can see here, with tarpaulins, and left some uncovered. We left some of it just as 3 meter length, and again covered some of those and left some of them uncovered. We produced this fantastically complicated looking graph, but in effect, again, it just demonstrates the same thing. We can get wood down certainly to 30% moisture content in a very short period. One summer drying, 3 to 4 months, pretty consistently. Getting it down to 20% moisture content, much more difficult and not guaranteed. The dotted lines are all the uncovered treatments. The solid lines are the covered ones, and you can see by and large the covered treatments dried more consistently. So I wanted to focus on moisture content because the other parameters, if we use clean fuel and use a reliable wood chipper, tend not to produce too many problems. But moisture content is the critical parameter that we have to understand, have to control. In summary, we know how to produce dry wood fuel. It's really important that anybody that is producing wood fuel can monitor and measure their moisture content. And I would say also, if you're a wood fuel supplier and aren't already a member, definitely join the Wood Fuel Quality Assurance Scheme. Okay, I'm going to finish at that.
Okay, thanks, Tom. That was very informative, and it's great that someone like you was doing such background into wood and wood energy and wood quality, and like the Irish Fuel Quality Association. Sure, it's great that we have something here, a standard set up, and something there's room for this to be pursued a lot more. So, Tom, look at we leave it with you for the time being, and we'll head on to Will Gabbett because time is moving on. Will has a short video here. Will and his father, Mikey, run Ballintobin Farm in Kilkenny. Will has down on that he's just a farmer. The farm man at Ballintobin, but I think by watching this video, both Will and his father were, to me, they're visionaries. They stepped out of their comfort zone from traditional farming, and maximizing their forestry and their different ventures between firewood, wood chip, Christmas trees. So I leave it over to you then, Alan, to roll the video. And
we arrived at Will Gabbett's place
as he was shipping out the first load of Christmas trees.
Some Christmas trees, as you can see behind us here. We've just done about 2,500 there over the last week or so. So
Has Christmas trees always been part of what's gone on?
we used to do about 7,000, but the whole sort of industry in Ireland took a massive hit about 3 years ago. So we're kind of pulling our neck back in that in a big way, as a lot of other people, the sort of smaller producers, really got hit hard. But there's a lot of guys still doing quite well out of it. The guys who really focused on it. My name's Will Gabbett, and you're at Ballatoban Farm here. We're about 400 acres, 300 of tillage and 100 acres of forestry, generally native woodland. We've got some ancient woods. We've some maps from 1655, so and some of the woods are on that as well. So, and you know, there's we've got evidence recently of ring forts and Bronze Age roadways and things like that on the farm as well. So we like to think that those guys were still using the woods here.
I'm Mickey Gabbett. I am Will's dad, and I came back to farm here in 1977, I think.
Okay.
My father just handed it all over to me, and I took over. And very soon after I came back here, I got very interested in forestry, and I became involved with the Irish Timber Growers, and was on that committee for a long time.
And was there much forestry here then in 1977?
There always was a historic sort of 100 acres of woodland on the farm.
Okay.
And so from then on, I think I started in about 78, 79, planting little bits around the farm. The one here is part of it, and you'll see others as we go.
Yeah.
But the core, the big wood, which is a 46 acre oak wood, and two other main oak woods, and it amounted to 100 acres when I started.
The adoption of biomass boilers by the local Camp Hill community in Ballytoban presented an opportunity for Mickey to get involved with delivering wood chip to these boilers.
Leader actually granted a trailer to deliver the wood chip and the weighbridge, which you've seen up there.
Yeah.
And yes, and Camp Hill, Leader helped Camp Hill to buy a chipper, and we started the business here, and it was going well. We were delivering to about 10 or 12 different boilers within what we call tractor range, within a sort of 20-mile radius.
With the wood chip, primarily the source of the timber is from local woods around the area that we would purchase in, because even with 100 acres of forestry, we're unable to supply ourselves with enough timber. So we buy from local growers through forest management companies or forest companies.
The very local nature of this fuel network speaks directly to current energy concerns.
The whole concept of the thing being parish-based rather than a national base. So the timber comes from locally, and it's chipped, it's dried here, and it's chipped here, and it's delivered locally. So the actual carbon imprint of delivery and diesel and everything else is so much less.
When the wood chip business started up, they were buying in most of the softwood for chipping from local forests. And this also points to the long-term nature of forest rotations.
There's quite a lot of softwood that we do as well, so that's really good, because that we can dry down well below 20% within a 9-month period, as long as we have those summer months. So that's great. But and that really is tied directly to the biomass that we buy in for chipping. So we can only supply ourselves with a small amount of timber for softwood, but hopefully there's more coming online all the time, because of, as you mentioned earlier, sort of it's a historic thing, and I'm working from what my father has planted in the past, and hopefully my kids will be working from what I've been doing in the past and all the rest. So it's it really is a sort of, forestry is a very slow process, and you're always just working with what people previous to you have done management wise. So
chipping timber for biomass is one way to deliver wood as fuel,
But firewood requires less processing, and this side of the fuel supply line also began to grow as a source of income for Ballytoban.
In our case, yes, our firewood business is flying. It's a good business. We have clients who are coming back again and again, and our sales unit, we don't bag it, we just sell a bucket from a loading shovel. And that the bucket is our sales unit.
2 buckets, one's 1.4 cubic meters and one's 1.7 cubic meters. Depending on what trailer you bring in, it will dictate what bucket you get. And it's pretty simple. Drive in with a trailer, just put it in, and give me the money, and off you go.
Most of the trees on the farm here are made up of hardwoods. The market for hardwoods in Ireland is underdeveloped, but finding niche markets for this wood sees a high return, and the lower value hardwoods make it into the wood fuel supply chain.
We think that the big wood, which we might see later, was probably fairly well harvested during the First War. So the age of what we see down there was sort of 1918 onwards, I think.
What we do with our timber here on the land is actually we make firewood. So we fell the trees in a sort of a sustainable thinning process. So we rotate every sort of 7 years into the old hardwood woods, so that we're never taking too much and make haste slowly, as they say in forestry. So you're never shocking the wood too much. So yeah, that's part of it. So the timber gets felled. We select the poorer quality trees, so that we're always aiming to get the best trees at the best quality we can. So for example, we sold 10 trees to Middleton to make whiskey barrels out of, and that's what we're aiming to do, is to produce the highest quality timber for those kind of things. So but as a sort of a sideline to that, there's a lot of byproduct, and that byproduct we produce into firewood, which we will fell, stack in its length, try and get that dried down as best we can over between 9 month and 2 year period. As long as you get the summer months, you can get a fast growing species like ash down to about 20% moisture if you have a good drying site. But a slower growing, denser timber like oak or beech really needs to have 2 years of drying to do that. So there's a management of trying to keep that sustainable, so that people can come in and buy dry timber, because as we all know, there's in the media recently they're talking about making it illegal to sell undried timber below anything above 20%. So
because it's not efficient.
Exactly, and there's particulate matter that becomes an issue with in the air as well. So we don't want that.
Selling oak trees for whiskey barrels is just one example of markets for hardwoods, a market that Mickey thinks needs more investment.
I've been banging a drum for a long time, which is that there is not enough downstream support for people who are growing hardwoods. There is no industry being supported growing up to use those hardwoods that we're all being asked to plant. So I really would love to see a focus away from Sitka spruce into downstream use for hardwoods.
Wood chip and increasingly firewood is one of the income sources for Gabbett's farm, but tillage is the main focus of their work. But even there, Will is finding use for forestry byproducts.
We're trying to get away from artificial fertilizers as much as possible. I don't know whether you've been hearing in the news or not, but fertilizer has gone up about 3 or 4 times the value because of gas issues from Russia and places like that. So we're trying to get as much biological activity in the soil as possible. So one of the best ways of doing that is to encourage fungi in the soil. So part of that is to use the waste sawdust after it's decomposed for a few years, and I'll be adding a little bit of green material in that to try and encourage that to happen, and then we'll be spreading that out onto the ground, very very thin little spread, but that's enough to stimulate the soil to become more fungal dominant.
The biomass market in Ireland is still a developing one, and Ballytoban Farm has been involved with it from its early days, meeting the challenges and adapting accordingly.
Thanks, Will and Mikey. That was great, very informative, and as I said, on Will's LinkedIn, he has it down as the farm man at Ballytoven, but I think you're more than the farm man. To me, you're very much so a visionary in what you're doing, yourself and your dad. And it's great to see other things being done besides just conventional wood chip and what you're doing with your waste product, and looking at the possibilities of added value to your land by spreading it on as a fertilizer. So look at we'll come back to you, Will, on that and probably in questions and answers. Now we'll go over to Nick Roberts. Nick is another director like Will of the Irish Wood Producers, or sorry, former director. Nicholas is. Nicholas he runs a dairy and mixed farm enterprise, along with a supply and storage of wood pulp, and he's a member of the Irish Wood Producers. So we'll let you off then, Nicholas.
Okay, Anthony, thank you very much for that introduction. My name is Nicholas Roberts. I'm a dairy farmer, as Anthony has said, and I also run a depot here for the Irish Wood Producers on my farm. I was operating and still am operating my own wood chip business as well since 2006, when I first got involved in biomass or wood chip production. I was then asked to join the IWP in 2011, which I was glad to do because shared knowledge is a great thing. So I became a board member then from 2012 to 2019, and it was very enjoyable time on it and learned a lot. And the group has come a long way since then, and it has a long way to go still, but it's well on its way. So on our own farm here, we have 10 acres of a Sitka spruce plantation. It was planted in 1991. It's been tinned twice, and it'll be probably clear-felled in 2 or 3 years' time. So Alan, if you want to move on to the next slide then, please. So the IWP is a not-for-profit local producer group formed in 2012. But there's a bit of an anomaly, and I always have this with Alex and when I was on the board as well, about the not-for-profit bit. We're very much focused on profit and to return as much as we can back to the grower than the traditional methods of selling your timber through maybe some of the other methods like the forest management companies or whatever. So it's our job to try and return as much as we can by adding value to all the different products down the line, but most especially to the wood chip at the end of the drying period. So the group started out with 55 members. I think there's close on 800. I think I see in a slide later on, there could be 800 members now, not all active, but they would certainly have contact with the group as well from time to time, depending on whether they're attending field trips or events, or whether they're actually getting their timber harvested, tinned, harvested and clear-felled or whatever. So there was also some business training took place with the group at a very early stage, because I suppose it was just a producer group and we wanted to have a business focus to see how could we move the group forward. So that was very enjoyable. I actually still have the folder and I looked it up yesterday. It was 2013 and there was 24 people took part in it. So we covered everything on that, from how to give a business edge to the group and how to find new markets and how to value what you had on your plantation. And it covered everything like that, and stuff maybe not related to forestry, but just more a business element. So that was very, very good and very enjoyable. So on you go there, Alan. So through that then, the Vulcan project was running away on its own steam at the time with Danone. So as the slide says, there was 5 producer groups involved in Wicklow, Wexford, Kilkenny, Laois and Tipperary. Some of those amalgamated into different groups, and then eventually then the original group, I suppose, that I was involved with was Wexford Wood Producers, which then changed into Irish Wood Producers, and some of those groups are encompassed within that. So on you go then again, please. So I suppose these 4 boxes here outline exactly what the group does. So everything is covered from afforestation, in other words, planting your trees, first of all, whether it's reforestation or afforestation, looking after all the premiums and all the forms and everything that have to go into the Forest Service, the same with grants for your roads as well, and the Woodland Improvement Scheme, and of course, unfortunately now the ash dieback scheme, that's covered as well, and something that the foresters and Alex put a lot of work into as well. So the next one then is obviously planting forestry. So there's site assessment, ground preparation, planting, management plan, and maintenance. The next one over then is the harvesting of the timber, which is obviously takes place after a certain number of years, but everyone's plantation is at a different stage. So again, more paperwork with the felling licenses, and the harvesting then takes place after that, and then your clear fell. And then at the very end, over on the right hand side, the box then shows all the different products. So your saw log, box or pallet wood, pulp, wood chip, and firewood. So within all those 4 boxes, there's a lot of machinery, a lot of people, a lot of big heavy plant that's used. None of it is owned by the Irish wood producers. Everything is subcontractors. I think we may have a shovel, we may have a chainsaw, and we have a couple of moisture meters. That's as much as it happens. There was a decision made early on that everything would be subcontracted out. They're very specialized machines, the harvesters, the diggers for planting and everything. So everything is subcontracted out. Okay, Alan, thank you again. So this is more of the same then. So I suppose what happens then is a felling license is applied for on your plantation. Alex or some of the foresters will go out and have a look at it and see what your infrastructure is like, if it needs roadways. Then there will be a roading grant applied for. Obviously as well then, clustering of sites for harvesting is very important, because the harvesting machinery and the guys driving it, they don't want to be idle. They want to be moving all the time. So the shortest possible distance for moving harvesters from different areas, we try and minimize that. So try and get people to work together within an area, and it helps everyone along. So supplying of timber to the mills then. So we've built up a good relationship with some of the sawmills, more especially now as we get into more and more saw log. When we started first, I suppose there was just a lot of pulpwood involved, but as the plantations mature now, there's more pallet and more saw log. So there's a relationship there with the sawmills, and Alex is in constant contact with those. And then obviously then when the clear fell takes place, there's replanting, and that's all taken care of as well with the group and our subcontractors. Okay, next slide, please. So then the next bit then is retention of pulpwood. So all the pulpwood, it depends on what the grower wants to do, but the majority of the pulpwood is retained for wood chip, for biomass. So it can be, sometimes it's left at the grower's own site if their site is applicable, and if it's able to get lorries in and out. And there's a drying period then, which can take, and Tom mentioned it earlier, and so did Will, it can take from 4 months to 6 months to maybe a year, depends on what time of the year you start at. So we're constantly watching the moistures on that. Chipping on site then is literally what it says. It's in the first picture there. The chipper comes in. That's a lorry mounted chipper. So, and then the walking floor, which is on his right hand side, pulls in beside him, just in over the side, chipped from the stack. Lorry driver covers it, and away he goes. There's a better picture actually on the bottom, so you can see it there. So it's delivered directly from the forest to our end user. And there are also smaller local depots as well for more local markets. Okay, Alan. So wood chip specification, Tom would be very familiar with this one. For us here on the depot here, we have 2 sort of sizes that we aim for. So we've P100 and P60. So our customer Danone would be P100, which is basically a bigger chip with a higher moisture content. And the smaller boilers then would want P60 or P50 with a lower moisture content. The smaller your boiler, generally the lower your moisture content has to be. So we constantly watch our moisture contents, and we have, as I mentioned earlier on, we have a humimeter or moisture meter, and we also have just ovens and scales as well. So Alex takes care of all of that, and the sieve shaker then is just to get your particle size correct. Okay, Alan? So even though the timber is obviously grown in the forest, and you've got a roadway right beside it, and you say to yourself, sure, I'll just put that timber out there and we leave it there now and everything will be grand. As you can see from the picture, that's one of our chipping contractors. That lorry there weighs 29 tons. He went in just off of the roadway and down she went. So there can be particular problems with trying to chip on site. Some sites are brilliant, some sites are ready to go and there's no problems, but it's not everywhere that is set up for it. So there are a couple of different challenges with that. You have obviously your drying time as well varies on different sites, especially in first innings, because of the fact that the forest is growing, and then the roadway might be just going into the dead center of it, and there's nowhere else to put the timber, so it's put in the dead center of the forestry. No airflow through it because obviously the rest of the trees are growing all around it, so it's going to take a long time for that to dry down. So it has challenges to chip on site. It works in some places, but it doesn't work in others. Okay, Alan. So about 4 years ago, there was a decision made within the group then to try and bring everything to a central depot to try and control the moisture content, control the deliveries, control unforeseen circumstances that can happen when you go to a on-site. So a breakdown of what happens there then is the pulp is harvested and put out roadside onto forest. It then comes to the depot here just outside New Ross. The weighbridge is to the right-hand side of that right there. You can't see it, but it's weighed in over the weighbridge. It's then put down some of the roadways. You'll see those in the next slides. The driver of the pulp lorry, he marks all the stacks with the grower's number, and all the stacks are put separately on the roadway, and we try and then work from there then about the time that the particular lot would have come in and how long that will take to dry down. And obviously then it's not a huge variation, but some species can dry maybe a bit quicker than others, or if it's pulp from a clear fell rather than pulp from a first thinning. So we watch all that and make sure that it's drying down and that we go to the right stack when we go to chip it. Okay, next one, please. So those pictures then are of just chipping on site here. So we would like to think that we manage the moistures more efficiently by having it here at the depot. And then we have a covered store. Now we had it outdoors for a few years, but we put up a covered store last year, and it's made a big improvement on our ability to control moisture content. Well, obviously moisture content from upstairs out of the sky. So it's all in a shed now, and then we can guarantee that once we chip it at the given moisture, it's going to stay at that moisture content. So it was a 60 meters by 25 meter shed that was put up last year. There's a dividing wall in the middle, so we can keep drier or smaller material on one side, and then the material for our bigger customer Danone on the other side. So as I said earlier on, we're well geared up for the future. Hopefully there's an investment being made, and hopefully that will work out for us. Okay, and on you go. So as I said earlier on, there are north of 850 members there now. Sustainable forest management practices, that's something that we're very clued into, and making sure that we follow everything that our customers require in terms of, I can't say certification because we're not there yet, but we're on our way to that. But we have what's known as a chain of custody from source to market. So that helps us to guarantee that all our timber is harvested sustainably, looked after as well, and that we send a quality product into our end user. So I think that's it for the moment. That's the end of the slides anyway. I think Alan is ready. I think that's the last one. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicholas. That was very informative. That just gives you a brief outline of the Irish wood producers and the depot with Nicholas, and the work that Nicholas has been doing before he was involved, and afterwards, and what he's doing now. So look at, ladies and gentlemen, at the bottom of your page, there's a Q&A. If anybody wants to drop a question there for questions and answers afterwards, please do so. So what I'm going to ask now is for Alan to bring on Danone, have a video. Both Mark Stafford and Conor Browne from Danone are the two people, and so I'll let you watch the video. Thank you.
Danone Wexford is one of the biggest manufacturing plants in the Danone Specialised Nutrition Network, and it is the first baby formula production site in the world to be certified carbon neutral. The first step down this road was a suitable biomass boiler.
Danone would have needed a renewable energy source for our thermal energy demand here on site. Back then, the biomass boiler would have been the best available technology at the time to keep up with the volume and pressure of our steam demand here as we run 24/7. Dryer takes a lot of steam demand, so the biomass would have been the best possible solution.
Danone's move to a biomass wood chip boiler for its heating requirements also meant an investment from them in the local wood fuel supply chain. The Vulcan project was set up, and it supported producer groups in counties Wicklow, Kilkenny, Laois, Tipperary, Limerick and Wexford, some of which later merged to form the Irish Wood Producers.
So along with building, in parallel with building the biomass, Danone partnered up with the Kilkenny leader, which then came the Fulcrum project. The aim of the Fulcrum project was to create a farmer-owned entity to drive the harvest and processing and marketing of timber in the southeast. This group of farmers then became a sustainable business, with Danone becoming an anchor tenant of purchasing wood chip for the foreseeable future from this business. But Danone also had a major effect on the startup of the business. They invested €1 million in the startup, and then since 2016 it's been a sustainable standalone business.
So the local supply chain is extremely important to us. We're carbon neutral here. It was very important to us to have renewable energy, but we need to source that renewable energy from a sustainable supply chain then as well. So the wood chip being produced locally means that it has to travel not as far to get to our factory. So again, reducing carbon emissions in transport. It's very important to us to support the local community as well. So as a business in the southeast of Ireland, we're very keen to support other local businesses and try and build the community and build our suppliers up locally.
The biomass boiler drives this process, and from the delivery of the wood chip there's a lot of expertise and precision brought to bear.
Truck backs in, first of all we take samples. So there's samples taken here on site by our boiler man, and he'll bring it down to the oven then, and that's where we get our moisture content from weight before and after heat. After that it's put in the pit, divided out then in the store with a crane that runs 24/7. So yeah, again, there's a lot of maintenance on that crane. From the store then into the hopper, so it feeds down then into the biomass. Yeah, so the biomass itself at maximum capacity can produce 6 tonnes of steam an hour at 17 bar pressure, which is extreme. We take in 40 tonne of wood chip a day, so it's an awful lot of wood chip provided to meet that demand from the factory. Along with those reaching that bar, that pressure, and there's a lot of maintenance involved on the boiler itself.
While Danone invest heavily in what happens inside the plant in Wexford, this project was also driven by its commitment to supporting local farmers who were growing trees as part of their farm enterprise. And the Danone commitment has seen the local wood fuel economy grow.
Majority of it will probably be all, it will probably go for chip. There probably will be a certain amount of pallet in it. But through the producer groups, or through our producer group here in Wexford, Irish Wood Producers, we have a good contract with a local company that has taken a substantial amount of our wood chip, and we have a premium price.
That's really important to us. It's a fantastic story that we're able to support such a great project locally here, support local farm families, support the local community, help to secure employment in the area, help to secure revenues in the area. So that's hugely important to Danone. And hugely important to our story here of becoming carbon neutral as well.
Danone's path to carbon neutral status has been based on rigorous scientific method.
Danone took 3 simple steps, which was measure, reduce and offset. So back in 2010 we took a measurement of all carbon neutral or carbon emissions here on site, and that was the measurement obviously, and then to reduce it looked into renewable energy to make the site as energy efficient as possible. And the final step then is to offset. So the remaining carbon gases on site, we offset it by contributing to the gold standard carbon credit with the livelihood fund. And with these 3 steps combined, then we hit the goal of 80% reduction in carbon gas, which in fact is equal to taking 5,000 cars off the road each year. So it's a massive achievement, a lot of hard work.
Danone has made huge changes to date in their commitment to reaching carbon neutrality. Now they want to ensure this progress is built on into the future.
The next step on the journey for us, now that we're carbon neutral, this year we hope to be finally certified as a B Corp company. So what that means is, as a B Corp company, you're legally required to take into account in all your decisions the impact on your employees, your suppliers, the local community, and the environment. So it's a sustainability certification that encompasses all aspects of sustainability, and it becomes legally binding for the company to build in that sustainability into all aspects of its business. And that really underpins our One Planet, One Health vision, where we believe in Danone that the health of people and the planet are intertwined. You can't have one without the other.
That's great. Look at it. That was a video there done by both Connor and Mark Stafford, 2 employees of Danone. You can see there where Danone are going, and they're very happy with working in conjunction with producer groups like ourselves. And I mean, it's a double gain for them. It's they're looking at producing and maintaining their zero carbon, and in conjunction with the Irish wood producers and other suppliers, they're doing that on their energy needs. So look at, now I'm actually just going to invite back all the speakers and panelists here. So I'm just going to check, is there any questions and answers there? There is one from Caroline Hurley, an excellent presentation and content, thanks. Have the Irish wood producers got involved in shaping the new Irish forestry policy in the works, and what are hopes and fears around? So look at, anyone want to answer that question? I suppose, go ahead. Will, you want to say something?
No, I don't know. I haven't got an answer for it, unfortunately.
Well, I suppose, like on, I will say that the Irish Forestry Owners Association is working on policy. We, as in the Irish wood producers, are linked in with the Irish Forestry Owners Association, and we are more emphasising on the producer group and doing that and trying to get that. So it's the Irish Forestry Owners, I would hope, would work more on policies. Look at, I'm just checking to see if there are any more questions. No. Look at, does anyone want to sum up on anything? Anyone we missed out on? As I know time is running in, we're running a little bit over time. Nick, Tom, Will,
a couple of points on the video from our farm, and yes, in particular the byproducts from the firewood aspects of the farm. One of the, you saw a big pile of sawdust out of the back there, and yeah, we're composting that and adding green material to help that compost. But one of the interesting things that I've been reading about recently is Remiel wood chip, which is sort of the tops and the branches of trees fresh, and to spread that onto your land, and that can really stimulate fungal activity in the ground as well. So there's lots of byproducts and lots of aspects of forestry that you can apply to other enterprises you have on your farm as well. We've diversified a lot in what we're doing here, and sort of hand in glove, the firewood, the wood chipping, the Christmas trees. There's a lot of machinery that potentially isn't being accessed on your farms that you could be using to realize more profit from your businesses that potentially you could be doing. So just to keep an open mind and keep reading and see what else is out there. So just one point I wanted to add.
That's great. Very, very interesting. And like what you said, it's getting the fungi back in, even though we are creatures of habit, with being a grain farmer myself, we're putting fungicide out to kill fungi, and now we're wanting to create fungi to break down trace elements into soil. So look at, we're upsetting the balance of nature. Tom, you want to say anything? I see your hand is up there.
Sure. Yes. So I'm not a member of Irish Forest Owners, so
yes.
I I certainly won't be putting in a submission on your behalf to the policy development, other than to say that well, you absolutely should be putting in submissions, and in fact, like this webinar this evening just like demonstrates like this fantastic market development that you've achieved. You took a punt on forestry all those years ago. It was a long time coming, and it's fantastic to see a supply chain that's like truly local. And I think that's that's exactly what farm forestry should be about. And remember, like everything you've developed so far has been based off your first thinnings, and your first thinnings are really just what you're extracting to allow your better trees to grow on. So like the possibilities for market development and further product development are massive as your forests mature. And just following on from what Will said, I too will have been doing a good bit of reading around this area now of mulching, and one of the interesting kind of recent developments, I guess, has been the agroforestry scheme. And there's a lot of organic farmers in particular that are kind of interested in the agroforestry scheme. But of course, planting trees surrounded by competing vegetation generally means that we apply some pesticides, some herbicide, and they of course need an alternative, and wood chip mulch can be a great alternative there if done properly. And as you say, there's times when a green fresh mulch is better, and there's times when a stabilized neutral mulch is the right approach. And so there's I agree completely with Will. There's a bit of reading to do there, and find the right mulch for the right situation. But it's a kind of another interesting market opportunity for wood chip.
Thanks, Tom. Look, I know that we're against the clock. Nicholas, do you want to say anything, or will we?
No, I have it all said, Anthony. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, sure. Look, at all I want to say then is thank you, everybody.
Can I make one more point?
Yes, go ahead. Please do. Yeah.
Just on the video, you saw the drone footage over the big wood there, the 40-acre wood, and how open it is. And if I have one criticism of my father's management in the past, it's that we were reliant too much on ash planting as a sub-story through our woods. And the reason it's so open is that we've got hit very hard by ash dieback and removed any majorly diseased trees. You probably spotted some of them that were dead standing that we've left for biodiversity and everything. But just in forestry, diversity is key. They everything, it's a symbiotic relationship between all the different trees out there. So if as I said, one criticism is that he was too reliant on ash, and just to make sure that you mix everything up, because who knows what the next disease coming through is going to do. And just to keep an open mind as to what species are going to be the market for the future as well. So the only way to do that is just to make sure that you keep it diverse.
Thanks, Will. Look, I'm going to say thank you. Tonight we had over 64 people that joined us, and look, I would like to thank Danone, the two speakers on the video, and our panelists here. I would like to thank Chris Hayes and Alan from Crannog Media. I would like to thank Pat O'Sullivan from Society of Irish Foresters and the Department of Agriculture. And I'd like to thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope it was very beneficial to me. It was very informative, even though I am a member of the Irish Wood Producers. But look, it was great to see. And Tom, thanks. Nicholas, Will, thank you. And I'm going to say good night. Oh, sorry, by the way, our next webinar will be on the 13th of January. and I think Alan will put up some more information on that afterwards. But thank you and good night. Well, everyone happy?
Yep.
That's good. That's good.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. So.